the first firm that I worked for, it was unethically, it was a completely fine firm. What they did was financial advice, but they kind of give it to anyone on this model where you could ring up and you could be a little old lady with £500 to invest, and they would answer you. They dealt with everybody who came in. Of course, they wanted the bigger clients, and the bigger clients got dedicated people and that kind of stuff. But it was open to all. And what the regulators did over that period that we're talking about is they assumed that everyone was rotters.
Yes.
And what you need to do is you need to not just give somebody advice, you need to write them a whole 6-page letter explaining that you've looked at their risk profile, you've done all these calculations, this is the reason for doing it, here's the relevant legislation, all that kind of stuff. You need to write a 6-page letter. What that means is that it is completely economically unviable to deal with anyone without a minimum of 100 grand to invest, and probably much higher than that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember.
Which basically just means is that little old ladies, they don't get any advice these days, whereas they used to in the old system.
Of course, and that's because basically regulators now are no longer people who've been in the industry for a long period of time. Lots of them are either one or two categories of individuals who've gone straight from university, studied some course, HR, marketing, PR, maybe done a business degree. They're taken in. Some of them are lawyers. Perhaps lawyers who wouldn't have actually made it in a law firm or as a barrister, but they'll get in at those lower ends because they know it's a good job. It's such a big organization now that you just climb the ladder through brown nosing and doing all the things that you do in a corporate world. And then the other groups are the politicos who are appointed at the top end. And so they don't really understand business. They don't understand the firms. They might have a brief understanding, that is a share. That is a bond. That's what a stockbroking firm does. That's what corporate finance do.
They'd be lost by derivatives, though.
And when you actually start to try and understand the whole framework, they just haven't got the guts, blood, and internal understanding of how the markets work. They just turn around and go, everyone is bad, therefore stop. And this is what the government wants at the moment. We will do it, irrespective of what happens.
To be fair, there were some dodgy firms back in the day.
Oh, look, there were. But and in many ways, most of that has particularly gone because they can't. But you're always going to find people who are dodgy and fraudulent in some form or other. You can't.
Actually, I don't think those firms would have survived the internet era particularly well anyway.
No. I agree with that. But the way that they've changed the regulations made it heavy. And we talked earlier before we came in on the show about how the City of London is fracturing and dying a death, how a lot of businesses are moving to Dubai and Saudi Arabia, how companies are being bought on by the American market. So there's the encouragement of large firms, if they're not been taken over by American companies, to go and relist on the US. And this is part of it. It's a 20, 30-year destruction of our City of London through over-impressive regulations.
So what happened after that? So they've dragged you into a meeting and they're giving you the third degree.
Yeah, they gave me the third degree and I didn't really give them enough. But what I did is I went back to my firm and I remember having the conversation with my CEO. I said, this is what's happened. It wasn't what they told me I was going in for. They've actually basically come in for you and Nick, who is the other boss. They're saying that you're a completely dodgy firm. And to be fair on my boss, he went away, and he was a really lovely guy, and I fully respect him. He went away, and about a week later, he called me into the office, and he said, Stephen, look, I think that they're going to come back heavily on us. I'm going to instruct this law firm to try and help. But as much as I've tried to change the company, it probably is a good idea if you look elsewhere. Not because I'm firing you, I want you to stay. And if you want to stay, you can stay. But you're a good guy, and I've got a feeling they're going to try and drag us down. And they did. They went after him as a decent bloke. They ended up fining the company a lot of money, so much that they did carry on. And he was really, really good to me.
Did he actually make his clients money overall?
On a whole, he did. Yeah, and that's the point. That was the sad thing. He was trying to do the right thing. They were making money, and he was trying to change the firm to a new model. So he's fighting his own staff, and even including one of his own partners, to recognise that funds under management is where the future is. And as we know now,
that is the model that was adopted.
That's the model that most people who were doing it. And he was going to get there. And he would have been ahead of the game if he'd have managed to achieve that. But the very fact that the regulator thought there was something dodgy about it because they were using leaps and they were calling people on the phone, I think that applied pressure, the additional pressure that business people don't need. You need legal pressure, regulatory pressure, as well as business pressures, trying to deal with your firm. And I think it's just hard. And I saw that, first of all, of how the state, when it gets it into their head that we're right, even though we know nothing about what's going on, we'll do whatever we can to destroy another entity.
The first place I worked, my boss there was a wealthy guy and had run a successful firm. I mean, his involvement with this Leap stuff is after it got so blown out of proportion, and the message was put out loud and clear that Leaps are dodgy. I mean, they're not actually. They are a legitimate. I mean, they're a bit esoteric, and they're probably not. It's probably not the right thing to do to call people up to get them to invest it, because it is a bit complicated.
Yeah.
But they're not actually a fundamentally bad product. Anyway, so the message went out to everybody that Leaps are dodgy and you should run a mile from them.
Yeah.
So nobody wanted to hold them. It was called this Leaps mis-selling crisis.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted out of them. And what my boss did is he basically just bought up all of them and then held them. And he made a massive profit on it. So, so they aren't fundamentally a bad thing.
No,
it's just,
no.
the regulators have got this idea that the way to protect people is to stop people from buying what they want to buy.
If you would like to see the full version of this premium video, please head over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to gain full access to all of our premium content.